All right, let's see. Can everybody hear? I suppose so. I'm loud enough, I think. Thank you for coming. This is our last meeting of the year, thankfully. And what a year it's been. We're starting off with a special guest. This is Jared Sandler, and he has the Sandlot. We actually met him through Michael Hoffman at Longhorn Capital, which is where he works, and he's the one that got us hooked up with Eric Nadal. And Eric is the voice of the Texas Rangers for the last 45 years. Never thought he'd see win the World Series, but now they did. So he's ecstatic, as so is Jared. So Jared's going to have something to say. So let me play this first so that you can see what we're going to talk about.
We've seen individuals say their first words in our arena. We've seen people take their first steps just with what the horses can do through the therapy that we provide.
Buddy Up is specifically here to celebrate each one of them wherever they are, whatever they're doing.
Rise Adaptive Sports is for the physically disabled. We provide adaptive sports like water sports, water skiing, tubing, wake surfing, parasailing, boat rides, things like that out here in Lake Grapevine.
It's effectively the first truly inclusive soccer league. So people without disabilities from all over North Texas had the opportunity to join in and get placed on a team and yeah, enjoy the sport of soccer together.
I was open to try anything, and I'm glad I did because this has been a super cool experience for me.
Sports is important for all kids, and disabled kids are no different. Just before we got the grant, we had experienced my truck was broken into, and they stole some equipment, things that I need for track and field. So that helped us replace that equipment.
We have some World Championship horses and some World Championship riders. So we go every year in August to Tulsa for the World Show. We use the Sandlot Charity funds to help take care of them away from home.
The grant really helped offset the cost of making this affordable, free for everybody that's playing. And then also giving the hipsters, I don't know if you saw the jerseys, but like, it looks legit too.
It's great to have an organization like Sandlot that says they support you and then shows up. They show up with their time, they show up with their funding, and it makes a huge difference for us.
The biggest way it's helped me is I got to interact with more people. I got to learn more teamwork and responsibility and stuff like that.
Usually I can't really remember things, but now that I've come here, I do. It's nice to get that chance to be active and feel like how a regular able-bodied kid would feel like when they try sports and stuff.
It's wonderful for both the athletes and the buddies because it gives the buddies a chance to cheer other people on.
I was partnered with Emily. She was the athlete that I worked with, and I think what she really needed was a buddy who was positive and wanted to encourage her to come out on the court. She, gained more confidence, and her buddies on the court also were encouraging her, and it was really fun to see her really come out of her shell just in that one specific activity we did, which was serving, and do a great job. And then she won her buddy buck at the end.
A sense of accomplishment to these athletes. You're able to celebrate every different level of accomplishment, no matter how small it may seem or how large it may seem, it's still an accomplishment. So I think that's what makes it great.
Maybe their sister is in cheerleading or their brother is in football, and they're, for whatever reason, not able to participate in that. But they get to bring their whole family out and show off their skills in this way.
There's a realm of respect and pride and acceptance, and all of that comes along with being given the opportunity to be included.
This sense of accomplishment does really come full circle in terms of giving back, and you feel accomplished, but then you're giving everyone that equal opportunity to have fun and be involved in sports.
They should feel very confident that their dollars are going to a very worthy cause and one that will make a difference in a lot of people's lives and the families of each one of these kiddos, each one of the athletes, and in the families of the buddies who are out here helping. I think it's a worthwhile cause for all parties.
My name is Joy Geyer, and the reason my name is Joy is because I feel joyful.
It's fun, and I like everything about it. I like grooming the horses and riding them and tacking them and sometimes sidewalking for riders.
Bringing joy into the lives of these athletes who, again, sometimes are left out of things. It's the most heartwarming thing I've ever done.
It's just a beautiful demonstration that when given the opportunity to be included, it's better for everybody. And you see it on their faces too. It's amazing.
They're having lots of fun playing tennis with me, and they're doing great with their strokes. And I love being with my friends and playing tennis with them.
Welcome up, Jared.
Well, this is obviously a video about a charity, which means I'm going to ask you for money, but I feel okay about that because I know afterwards Darwin's going to talk to you about making some money. So it seems like a fair trade. Darwin was kind enough to invite me. He's supported the charity for the last several years. It's something that was started out of a labor of love. Full-time, I'm a broadcaster for the Texas Rangers. This is not a full-time job, but it's something that I sort of stumbled into in 2017. Obviously, the video sort of tells the story. We raise money for kids with disabilities through our grant program. When we initially started, we thought we'd be giving families directly the funds. They would be the ones who applied. The way it sort of unfolded was organizations who provide some of these opportunities were the ones who would apply. So you saw some of them featured in the video, like Buddy Up Tennis and Hope Kids and eQuest. And as you can imagine, and maybe you have some experience with this through friends, family members, kids with disabilities in some ways are able to participate in the same activities, but it's way more cost prohibitive. You know, a wheelchair, for instance, for wheelchair basketball costs $5,000. You saw eQuest and Victory Therapy Center featured in the video. It is not very cheap at all for some of these riders to be able to make the drive out there, compete in competitions where they've got to get the transportation taken care of. They got to get arrangements, and not just their own transportation, but transportation for the horses and all that stuff. But these are incredibly important opportunities for these kids. Health and wellness is the biggest need for kids with disabilities. And on top of that, maybe from your own experiences, I know for me, getting to play sports, you have fun. First of all, that's always an important thing, especially for kids who consistently get told what they can't do. You make friends, you develop leadership skills, communication, all sorts of stuff. It's a total package, and so that's why we do what we do. Darwin invited me out here. We've got our big fundraising event coming up December 3rd. This QR code will actually take you to a page that will provide a link for that. Our ambassador program, which is a program that it's a networking group that also goes out and volunteers at a lot of these organizations, to, I guess, put it succinctly, and then just the general website where you can donate. The event is at Globe Life Field, which is the home of the Rangers, and given the events over the last couple weeks, we are going to have the World Series trophy there, which we're really excited about. It's going to be on the field itself, so it's not going to be in some ballroom, or you're not going to be tucked away on the concourse. We're going to have all sorts of celebrities there, players from the Rangers, players from some of the local sports teams. We'll even have a few musicians and actors and actresses there, and it's going to be a field day. We're going to, in the outfield, have all sorts of different events. You're going to do things as simple as maybe just being able to play catch on a major league field. We're going to have a wiffle ball home run derby. We're going to have stuff covering all sorts of sports: soccer, basketball, football, obviously baseball, hockey. We'll have your typical bar games like cornhole. we're also going to have different events that showcase what it's like to be a disabled athlete. So when you do the basketball event, you can do it as you are, and then you can also do it while sitting in a wheelchair, just like a wheelchair basketball player. And we're going to have a lot of organizations out in the outfield, not so much doing an exhibition, but just giving you an opportunity to walk in their shoes and get to have the same fun that they have. So we're really excited about it. We actually only have a couple tables left. So if you are interested, we'd love for you to click on, or I guess put your camera up on the QR code and secure it. We do have individual tickets as well to go along with tables of 4 and tables of 10. And if you're interested in sponsoring like Darwin has, then would certainly love to have you on board in that capacity as well. And there's more information on the website for that. So I know we got to now stop talking about asking for money and get to the real business, but I appreciate you guys having me. Darwin, thank you so much. Oh, go ahead.
Before you finish, this really was, I don't know if anybody pulled on anybody else's heartstrings on that video, but they don't have the opportunity to do a whole lot. We actually, through Garrett, sponsored a trip for the special needs kids out of Rowlett High School, which Garrett has a heart for, and sponsored them this year to go just to the Arboretum, just to look at pumpkins. I mean, it was nothing major, but that's their only field trip of the year. Their only one. Last year, we sponsored them to go see ice, to go out to do that in their one field trip. And at that school, they didn't even have a refrigerator for the kids' medicine, food, things like that. And shoot, it was damn near impossible. We had to jump through all sorts of hoops just to give them a refrigerator to use. So there's challenges more than just their own physical, but as far as all the facilities and everything else. So what Jared's doing is just incredible. Like you said, we did get a table, and so how much is it to go ahead and go as far as, I mean, because it wasn't really that expensive.
Yeah, so a table of 10 is $1,500. That includes food, drink, just the ability to be there, take part in all the activities. You don't show up and then get nickel and dime just to do this or that. Once you buy a ticket, everything there is inclusive. You can buy raffle tickets, and you can obviously donate on top of that. But it's not like you buy it's not the state fair or whatever, where you buy a ticket and then you got to now buy coupons and whatnot. A table of 4 is $600, and then individual tickets are $100 a piece. We also are in need of volunteers, so that doesn't cost you anything. And if you'd like to take part in that capacity, there's a contact form on the website, which you'll be able to get to from the QR code. Darwin's also got my contact. I'll give you my email as well if any of this is of interest, or if you have questions. It is Sandler, my last name, like Adam Sandler, Sandler, the initial J, and then the number 1 @gmail.com. So again, Darwin's got that if I'm talking too fast, or if you weren't able to write it down. And the other thing too, as I mentioned, we're low on, I had 2 things quickly, low on tables. We've added a wait list because invariably over the next couple weeks leading up to the event, someone who bought a table 3 months ago isn't going to be able to show up. Now we've got a way, we haven't done this in the past, of reaching out to people and saying, hey, the table opened up, would you like it? So if you decide in a few days and we're sold out, you can sign up. It's a zero cost registration. It's like you're buying a waitlist ticket, if that makes sense. And the other thing is, Darwin mentioned Rowlett High School with a program they have and whatnot. No, we don't have a single full-time employee. We're kind of a little engine that could charity. There are a lot of great charities out there like that, but we don't have the same resources that other charities do. Our name isn't out there the way that some way more established charities are. Our grant program is only as strong as the applications we receive. So if you know someone or know of programs that could benefit from the funding, we've distributed over $200,000 worth of grants over the last few years. We've raised over $1 million now since our inception in 2017. We love seeing, we hate that we're now at a point where we're saying no to applications, but it's also a great problem to have, because that means that we're reaching lots of different organizations, lots of worthy organizations that are helping a wide array of kids. So another way you can help is if you know any organization that might be in need of funding in this category, please direct them to our website, thesandlot.org, and we'd love to work with them in the future.
And we did also with Sandlot 2 years, I guess 2 years in a row, you did it out at Topgolf?
So yeah, since 2017, we had been at Topgolf. Back then, there weren't a lot of events at Topgolf. It was kind of unique. Now there are a lot of events at Topgolf, and we had sort of outgrown it. So last year we put on a concert and sold out the entire venue, and we just felt like we were ready for something different, and so we're excited to go to Globe Life Field.
And it's worth $150 a ticket just to go get on the field of the world champion Texas Rangers.
Yeah, that's right. No, I appreciate it. Thank you guys. Thank you guys for having me. I really appreciate it.
All right, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah, you can take care. Yeah, really good cause. We went to another baseball game, another charity that we did a couple weeks ago, and there's just so much out there, and there's so many good people out there that are giving, especially in tough times like this. Well, getting on to it, market updates. To summarize, 2023 sucked. Does anybody else agree with that? Okay. But nonetheless, operationally on the properties, taxes went way up, insurance costs doubled, turn costs went up, labor costs went up, everything went up operationally. On transactions, everything was a struggle. Everything is a beating. We're still going through it. The property that we told you about in Denton, we're still struggling with that one, mainly because of loan assumption and problems on the debt side. But debt was constricted, interest rates doubled, loan spreads increased, and basically everybody was scared. Equity ran scared, and because they're having cash calls on other properties, et cetera. So that's where we're on the transaction side. Market cycles, they always happen, up and down, up and down, up and down. Here's my projection on where I think we are. That's my guess. Of course, I don't know anything, so as far as what the market cycles are, we've been doing it a while, but that would be my guess. So now that it's down, that's what's funny, everybody loves investing here. And they're really happy. Even investing right here, they're really happy, but then it goes down, and that's when you make all your opportunity. That's at the bottom of the market, okay? Why? What happened? The party is over. The last 12 years with declining interest rates, that's over. That's done. You've seen it. I doubt it'll come back that low ever again. So now it's just like the party's over. We got to clean everything up and go back to work. Is it like roaring 20s? What do we call this? The roaring 2010s, however we want to put it. Why? Why did this happen? Monetary supply. This is what was interesting, is this line right here, keep on going up, we're about here. But we went from having about $13 trillion in cash out there, I'm sorry, $15 trillion in cash out there, to almost $21 trillion. That is a lot of money. That's 20,000 billion. If I did my math right. So you can't have, when people say you can't predict what interest rates are going to do with things like that, when they're pumping money supply in, the government spends the money, and then the Fed has to raise rates to combat that. So this is from 2008, the last crash, and how interest rates went down to a low, and now shooting back up, okay? Now, since 2010 or 2008 on this graph, everybody that bought houses in the last 10 years are happy, right? And they think that rates are high. Do you think rates are high now? There's the rate since 1970. Okay, this is the treasuries, the 10-year treasuries. So even now, we're still low overall. Overall, we're still low. Now, my own opinion, I think the Fed's kind of figure certain things out and they learn over time, just like RTC, when that crash happened, they learned, how to go ahead and do it. They don't know. It's like doctors, they only practice. So over the long haul, I think this will be pretty stable. It's still about that same level. I don't think we're going to get dipping down, but it'll go up and it'll dip down a little bit more at some point in time. But for those, most of you are older and at least can remember back to the 90s. But kids and young people, they're looking at this going, oh my God. Okay, horrible, right? 30-year fixed rate mortgage since 2008. It's a bad looking graph, right? The overall interest rate for buying a house. Now, again, for everybody that was born in the 90s, they think this increase and this cost is ridiculous. But let's go back to 1970 again. And there are a whole lot of people buying in there and made a lot of money in real estate. Because also cap rate compression. If you're buying at a higher cap rate, and you do have cap rate compression, that's where most of your money is made. So overall, we're still not bad where we are. It's just looking at if you're looking at the short term behind us, yeah, we got kind of screwed. Here's market data from CoStar. Now I did 3-star properties. Ours are 3 and 4, 1 or 2 maybe that might be close to a 5, but not really. But the data is all pretty similar for 3 and 4 stars. Market sales price per unit. Shows a nice little bubble there, nice and simple and easy, right? Remember how we were talking last time is about that bridge loan bubble? Well, that was also coincides with all the money being pumped into the system. And that's the reason for the money being pumped into the system. Lenders tightened up, bridge lenders came in, all of that. So sales price per unit. This is DFW. This is DFW. And again, this is an overall average because even at the high, they're saying 150,000. And for 3-star, might be a little higher for 4. But it's sales price per unit. And then the inversion, because the cap rates, same thing. Cap rates were going down and down and down and down since 2013. Anything you bought, cap rate goes down, value goes up. You didn't even have to try, and values went up. You bought a property, you waited for the cap rate to go down, and you made money. And everybody was a hero. Every real estate investor over the last 12 years looks like a hero. Now's where it starts kicking in. Sales volume. COVID kicked in here, scared everybody, nothing sold. Other than that, sales volume is down, but this next one shows it a little bit better. Sales growth. Brokers, mortgage brokers, real estate brokers, everybody, they're down 60% this year. 60%. So this is now when you're going to be weeding out a lot of the people that shouldn't be in the industry anyway. So those are total sales growth numbers. This one was number of amount of transactions dollar-wise, and that's the growth. Okay. Painting a grim picture so far? Yes, sir.
Is that residential or commercial?
This is actually residential. Yes, sir.
Is this across the country?
DFW. This is just DFW. Just DFW. Okay. Liquidity and debt. Bottom line, it's the it's availability of capital that drives commercial real estate. You don't have availability of capital, you can't buy anything. And at least in apartments, we're a preferred investment. So the government helps provide liquidity for apartments because people need a place to live. Office buildings, I think I told you this last time. Office buildings, $1.7 trillion in notes coming due over the next year and a half. Currently 18% vacant, but with the shadow vacancy, tenants that are paying but don't have anybody in the office, 50% vacancy. Okay, 50% vacancy. usually bought at a much higher price. So the value's going to be way down because of that. Cap rates are higher, so even with that net income that's there, the value goes down. They aren't going to be able to finance it. Office market is going to crash hard. Property value increase, we talked about it because of cap rate compression. Monetary supply, we talked about. And now quantitative tightening. The Fed is taking out $97 billion a month out of the economy right now. $97 billion. It's still going to take a long time to get up to that extra 12 trillion or whatever it is that they put in here. 7 trillion that they pumped in the last few years. Higher interest rates raise the cap rates, and less liquidity, less transactions, lower prices. We were looking at this same CoStar report. Funny enough, in DFW, we were the number 3 buyer in DFW with 2 transactions. I mean, it totaled $99 million, but still, in dollar volume, we were number 3. Like crazy? Absolutely ridiculous. Little old us. I loved this saying. Hard times create strong men create good times create weak men create hard times. You are here. We are here now, hard times. So you're either going to step up, become stronger, figure out better ways to do things, build a better mousetrap, or you're going to fail. That's where we are. Our job is to protect the capital while increasing shareholder value. And that's how it's always been for every company. Distributions are down across the board, okay? Most experts say to stop them altogether. You go to any of the other gurus, they're all saying same thing. Don't do any distributions, put away your capital, save for a rainy day. And even if they were choosing to do that, they don't really have a choice because they're usually upside down anyway. Out of our 16 properties, 8 are still paying distributions. And then I've got a little asterisk there because Frankfurt is just because of the partner loan. So 9 out of 16 paying distributions, and 4 of those are still in the value creation mode. So we're not doing too bad comparatively. Over half of our properties are still paying, and 75% of the stabilized are paying. So that's kind of shocking overall, but I think comparatively, I think we're doing pretty damn good compared to everybody else. U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics. This came out, I think this morning? Today. That was today, okay? October inflation eased off, okay. Inflation is heading down. It's still up, but it's heading back down some. Most of the inflation is still driven by gas prices. Gas and housing are the 2 biggest. Okay, I'm just gonna ramble this off. Price rose 3.2 versus 3.7 last year. That's why the trend is down. Price in October were flat the last time. Yes, sir. Last month, sorry. Okay, I typed that wrong. Last month, 3.2 this month versus 3.7 last month. Prices this month were flat. Last time that was in July of 2022. Inflation's better than 22 when prices were a 40-year high. Gasoline fell 5% in October and 2.1 in September, so that's good. Used cars and trucks fell less than 1% in October, 2.5% in September, so we're seeing some correction on that. Recession that seemed practically guaranteed 1 year ago, and I'm reading this because this is what they said. The recession that was practically guaranteed 1 year ago has faded from economists' forecasts. I don't completely agree with that. Economists are puzzled why people feel down about everything but continue to spend. Okay. I think that that's dumb. I think people are still living off of savings. They have that. You've got credit card debt now over $1 trillion for the first time. So they're living off of debt and credit. They're living off of credit, debt, and their savings. And that's going to come to a halt at some point in time. And usually Christmas time, spending goes up. And then you got to pay the piper in January, February. right? So I think that, I'll get to that part of it in a second. But here's something that looks up. Cost to rent versus buy. And big disparity here leading up to the 2008 crash. And then of course it's been lower the entire time. But now there's a huge disparity between buying and leasing. Median home list price, 476, sales price, 361. And the scary part about that is just to buy with 10% down, $36,000 down, $11,000 in closing costs. You need 50 grand to buy a house now. How many of those starting their homes now, starting their households, household formations, have 50 grand to put down? Not very many. Not very many.
How do you explain this difference between list price and sold price? Is it like the average discount?
No, it's not a discount. It's just because of what is listed. So there's higher prices listed right now that are not selling. So a lot of the listings that are coming in are much higher price. That's why the average list price is higher than the.
Would they sell at a discount?
No, they're not selling. The more expensive homes are not selling.
Well, because they listed for more. Like if they lower the price, they would sell.
If they lower the price, they would sell, yes. And still, rent still went up 0.5% in October overall. I liked this one. Again, we're data, so all the data nerds can enjoy all this. This is each property: Lakeside, Mercer Park, Saginaw, Frankfurt, Citadel, Amber Trails, Corners, Riverbend, Oakview, and 1019. The first column, since you can't really read it back there, is basically our beginning NOI when we bought the property. The second column is what we put into our PPM. And the third is what our actual is right now. Okay? So I like this because, like Lakeside, we're beating where we should be on our income, on our net income at Lakeside, and we've owned it 22 months. Mercer Park, we're a little bit lower than where we would be, but we're still in the value creation mode. So that one's going great. Saginaw, right in line with the PPM. Frankfurt Station, pretty damn close to the PPM. Citadel, real close to the PPM. Amber Trails, real close. And this is for net operating income. Corners is a little bit low, and so is Riverbend. And that's because we're having a hell of a time getting any evictions done in DeSoto with the judge who basically says, oh, give him another 30 days, give him another 30 days, give him another 30 days. Oakview, right in line, and 1019, pretty close, just a little bit of a dip right now. But the reason I liked that is we're not too bad on our NOI on our private placement memorandum. So we're pretty good at forecasting. I was encouraged by that. Quite honestly, it's better than what I thought it was going to be before we started looking at the data. Because we get preliminary numbers, do our assumptions and our analysis, and then we plug that in, and we have financials, we have a budget sometimes that we work with, but then we have to project out 2, 3, 4 years of where we're going to be on NOI, and we're actually pretty damn close. So I'm kind of impressed with that one. And that's a credit to our management company. Here's another thing that we've always done. I actually had a bet with another property management company, owner-operator, on a property I was going to buy. And he said that the exit cap, I forget when we were going to buy it. I think cap rates were about 4.5%. And he said in 5 years, you're going to be able to sell it for a 5. I guarantee it. I was negotiating a contract on it. He said, tell you what, if I'm right, whoever's right will pay for us and the other couple to go to Paris for a week. I ended up not buying the property because I didn't like his numbers. But when we project out, like take Riverbend, the exit cap I projected was 7.5%. Very conservative. Saginaw, I probably projected a 6%. Now, 4.7, 4.5 on the lower ones, because I bump up the cap rate on the sale every year on projecting out. And so many people don't. Who's had education that they say use the same exit and entrance cap rate? Okay. Anybody. Education from other people that says use the same entrance and exit cap rate. I hear a lot of people that say that. I won't say who. But we were projecting out cap rates at 6, 7, 7.5, and that protects us from what's happening now with cap rates going up. Kind of interesting. Rent growth. Okay. The first column is 2021, 2022, and 2023. So we're still seeing rent growth year over year. Even this year. So this year, Lakeside almost 7%, Mercer Park 14%, the value creation, Saginaw 8%, Frankfurt 6.3%, Citadel 8.9%, Amber Trails 14%, again value creation on that one. Corners 8.3% this year. I mean, 0.5%, 2.67%, but now 8.3%, so way up. 3.31% for Riverbend. We have occupancy problems, things like that, rougher area of town. But these two are right next to each other, Corners and Riverbend. Corners had more availability to go up with where their rents were, and it's a newer property. Riverbend, we put a lot more into it, but also you got to remember, we've had Corners for 38 months, Riverbend for 80. So as far as when we did Riverbend, we put all the money in there, and now it's starting to be a little bit dated because of how long it's been. Oakview 7.3 and 1019 at 8.5. So year over year, when they're saying there's no rent growth this year, our portfolio is. We're doing well. All the doom and gloom and everything that's in the market. I will tell you this, when I started looking at this, especially with those first graphs, I'm like, oh crap, I'm not gonna have anything good to say. And they said, let's pull the data and see what the data says. I was like, oh, that's encouraging. Oh, that's encouraging. Also, our debt. Debt has value, okay? For those of you who are back there can't really see it, Corners Apartments. Corners 85 units, $7.2 million loan, 2.97% fixed until 2032. Holy shit. 2.97 for another 8 years. So there's value to that. So in the way that brokers would say that is that there's value in that on a loan assumption because it's a Fannie Mae loan, assumable. They can get a supplemental because there's more than 5 years left on it. So the value of the Corners would be higher because they can assume that loan rather than paying 6%. They can pay a higher price and still get a good yield on their purchase. And these are in order of lowest to highest interest rate. Our overall average is 4.28%. Okay. This is the one that got me here. Crossing. 2041 expiration. What's that?
This is just the main loan, not any additional loans. Like Frankfurt, for example, the partner loan is not here.
Partner loan's not in there. No, that's counted as kind of equity.
1019, there's a second loan, I think.
That's a combined on 1019. That's a combined.
So that's the combined 3-0.
Combined. Yeah. Okay. So, doing good. I mean, on everything, and everything's fixed. All fixed interest rates, so we don't have that variable. This does not have the private equity in there now.
Okay, so Mercer Park, 8.85, that's not included.
That's the agency debt, yes. Okay. So overall, very solid on everything. We've got some expirations coming up. For example, Kainani. It's Kainani, Harlinani. Yeah, Kainani expires in January. So we're negotiating with the lender right now. And I think we're going to do $100,000 pay down, and then a 6% interest rate, which is not bad, yeah. Not bad, but long expirations and great rates. 2.97 on corners. Okay. Now, how do we compete in this market? Operations, operations, operations. Okay. We really have to focus on operations. It's resident retention. Key to resident retention, employee retention. You have that staff changeover that gives them, gives residents concern. And a lot of times if they have a manager they like, the manager moves and brings a lot of people with them. So operations, resident retention, employee retention. How to complete. Good times allowed for some. Good time. Okay, good times allowed for some complacency and sloppiness. That's ironic. Sloppy there. Okay, so basically, the last 10 years you could be sloppy. You don't, I mean, cap rate compression, you didn't have to be really focused on operations. I know people that didn't do anything to their property, sold it a year later and made a ton of money, even though they didn't even run it properly. And that happens. So during good times, you can be a little loose. Well, now you really have to tighten things up and you got to pay attention to every detail. So that's really what we've been focusing on this year, is really refining everything, doing what we can do to save money and tighten everything up. Okay. Plans and predictions. I think, again, I don't know anything. Most economists say that. I'm only right 50% of the time. What 50 that is, they don't know. But I think that Q1 and Q2, like I said, I think the spending comes home to roost in Q1, Q2. I think that that is a recessionary period. And I think that by Q3, they'll drop it down maybe a point and a half on interest rates, just to try and correct the market from absolutely crashing. I think that we're going to have a softer landing. However, variables, war, Ukraine and Russia, Israel and Hamas, potentially Iran, Hezbollah, potentially. Whatever is going to happen in election year, we don't even know who the hell's running. Okay? I mean, we're a year out and we're not sure who's going to be on which side, which aisle, in a third-party candidate. Who the hell knows on all that? Energy markets, those are all over the place. I think that gas prices are going to go back up. That's going to hurt our inflation numbers. But there's just so many variables that come into play. And black swan events. Who would have predicted COVID? No way to predict anything like that. So even though I think Q1, Q2 is the bottom, we don't really plan on that. We still use the same economics. We go with fixed rate debt. We buy what makes sense now, stay with fixed rate debt so that if there is any of the ups and downs, we can take care of it. We are adjusting so that we don't have massive prepayment penalties and defeasance and things like that. But I still want to keep the same fixed rate debt. Conclusions. We are at or close to the bottom of the market. I wonder why I put an asterisk there. It was to remind me of something. You ever do that? You put the rubber band around there to remind you of something and then you don't remember what it's for? We're still in rough waters we need to get through. We focus on improving our operations and we're still looking for buying opportunities, but they're tough because people that were smart enough to have fixed rate debt don't have to sell. The ones that are variable, I think that they're still sticking their head in the sand. I think that as a sponsor, let me just see if this rings any bells. Okay. So you raise $5 million for a $20 million deal, you got a $15 million note. Well, now the value's down at $15 million. You're barely making ends meet, so you're robbing Peter to pay Paul, a downward spiral. And you can't raise more capital because the value's 15 and your loan's 15. You can't refinance because you'd have to raise cash to go ahead and get to pay down that loan. So you're holding on. You're just holding on, trying to get through this until there's something better that comes along. And I think there's a lot of people doing that right now, just holding on until they're forced. I like to go and play blackjack or poker. And there's an example I use is I go sit down, $500 at a blackjack table. Put $100 out there and I play that. Usually play that, it'll go up and down until I lose that. Then I put another $100. Up and down until I lose that. Another $100, up and down until I lose that. It's usually never up and walk away because I'm not that smart. But as soon as I get to $500, all in, it's all I brought, that's all I'm gonna spend. Same thing. As soon as I lose that, well, now I'm out. I don't have any money, I can't keep going. But I kept trying and trying and trying. And that's what I feel like people are doing, is they're only gonna sell when they finally have to. They're out of money, there's no other options, nothing else I can do, is what I think is gonna happen. Yes, sir.
So what's the forcing function that causes somebody like that to have to sell then at a discount?
Well, going back to 2008, 9, 10, is they rob Peter to pay Paul. You start having vacancies. You can't afford to have a vacant unit. So rather than having them move out, you lower the rent. If they move out, you're not replacing the carpet, even though it's torn up, so you're giving them somebody a discount to move in. You've got to get a unit ready, so you go steal from those other units, and eventually you don't have anything else to steal from. You don't have any way to move.
What is it that forces you to sell when the bank comes calling?
You run out of money. You can't make your payment. And then that $15 million loan, and the property is worth 15. Technically, the loan, now the property is only worth 12 because you've been bastardizing it. And because it's non-recourse, you just give the keys back. And then everybody loses. But I think that the idea from a sponsor point of view that's in trouble on that is I'm going to keep fighting and fighting and fighting and fighting. And if I can make it out, great. I mean, I hate to bring this up. That's what I had on Serrano Ranch. Serrano Ranch that I bought in 2009, and it went down in 10, went down in 11, went down in 12. 75% of the units in that market were foreclosed on. My basis was $35,000. The foreclosures, they were selling at $10,000 a unit. My rent went from $525 down to $295 on a one bedroom. You can't cut your income in half and survive. And I refused to give up on that. It was like, you've seen the picture of the frog being swallowed by whatever. And so it was that. We did pull a rabbit out of our hat, sold it, still lost some money on that. That's the one deal we lost money on because we bought in the hood. And then market went down. And our C quality residents, if they could afford it, they moved in. Better quality residents moved into the B quality apartments, but the people that were in the D's moved into ours. So now we had purple Martians, using a lifestyles phrase, that were just running off good people and attracting other purple Martians. But they're still buying opportunities every time, just as harder to find and harder to get the deal done, harder to get the debt done. The market will weed out the weak, and there are always opportunities to invest.
Hey, Darwin, let me ask, offer another thing. And there is the school of thought that foreclosures are coming and the streets are going to be awash in foreclosures and opportunities everywhere. If you think about it from the lender's point of view, the lender is always the largest investor in any deal. They don't want to take a loss no more than the sponsor, owner, or the limited partners. So there's a period of time that we have to understand is still coming, and that is the workout period. These lenders do not want to take these properties back. They're not in the business of owning real estate. They're in the business of renting money. And they do not want to put non-performing assets on their balance sheet because state regulators require that for every $1 of non-performing money, they have to have $2 off their balance sheet in reserves. So they are going to be working with these sellers, these owners, to put off foreclosing. So there's still buying opportunities that have to be kind of found under the bushes there, but the market's not going to be a wash in foreclosures anytime soon. There's still at least 2-3/4 of that before we start seeing real foreclosures hitting.
And even when we do, there is so much money sitting on the sidelines waiting for blood in the streets. Same thing I said. I even said that, 2 years ago, same thing. There's going to be blood in the streets. But there's not. And even if they do, there's big money out there waiting to snap those up. So we're going to be in a position where we're trying to compete against the big boys that have cash, that can move quick and go in there and do that. We're talking trillions of dollars on the sidelines.
The good part about it is that they don't want the C class and the lower B class.
Yeah.
They want the A class or the high B.
Yeah, they're looking for those good opportunities. So, in a nutshell, like I started out, 2023 sucked. Absolutely horrible, difficult, but you've got to get through that. Doesn't kill you, makes you stronger. So we are getting stronger, getting better on operations, moving some things around, changing some things up on how we operate so that we can be in better position for long-term success. And still trying to find deals, but they're hard. But we're focusing more on the operations side than on the brokerage side, because just like friggin' Frankfurt, we had under contract worked on that for 8 months. That's a whole lot of dead time on raising money. Now we've got the Denton property, which we've been working on since March. June?
Yeah.
Working on it since June.
Since June, but we're just now really getting traction with the lender.
Yeah.
And so it's been, since it's an assumption, there's no incentive for the lender to let us assume the loan because it's at 4% interest. So they want that loan off their books so they can loan it at 7.5% interest instead of letting us assume it at 4%. So there's a lot of negotiation going on. However, there's some, if you want to, I've shared with you everything that I know. If you want to share with them the bright spots of this transaction, meaning, so we had negotiated a good price. We had negotiated a good stack of terms. It got bogged down with the lender, but there has been a couple of things that have kind of kicked things back into higher gear. One, this time of year, the tax rates get readjusted either based on a valuation forget the millage rate, just a valuation will come down, or because they are over their cap, each city has to lower their millage rate. So on this particular property, we were projecting $262,000 a year. It is now looking like it's going to end up somewhere between $215,000 to $220,000. So that's going to make the deal that much sweeter. The seller, which was pretty lackadaisical about the whole thing, well, let's just say they walked like this. Right now they got a little spring in their step, and with that said, they are now truly a seller. They don't want the property. This is the only asset they have in DFW. They're ready to get out. So we are really kicking in the high gear. And I told Darwin, we're getting this deal done, and it's going to be a home run for us. No doubt about it. I mean, price per pound, as we like to say in the business, just price per door, we're going to be all in at 140, 141 all in for 2016 construction in Denton.
Almost downtown Denton.
Yeah, just unbelievable property, beautiful property, ready to go. So yes, it's been just the weirdest year to get deals done, but this one, we'll get it done, and you'll make some good money on that deal.
Yeah.
We'll all make good money on that deal.
Eventually, yes.
Yes.
That one actually has cash flow too at that loan.
Yeah.
But even if we don't, we had to start looking at third-party debt rather than the assumption because the lender was so difficult. And with higher interest rates, we had to adjust things. And so maybe even do a retrade with them if that doesn't go through. But if it goes the way that it is, and we can do that assumption, it has cash flow, it has a year 3 cash out refi, it has all of the earmarks of a great deal that we would have looked at 10 years
3
ago.
years ago.
Yeah.
Which,
I was thinking 10 years ago, not even
that's
3 years
true.
ago.
That's true. And it may be to tease it a little bit, based on the changes and the effect that the new tax bill will have. We're looking at anywhere between 4.5% to 5.5% year one on cash. So it's going to be a good deal.
So we can actually compete with T-bills.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, do we have any questions, comments, thoughts? Yes, sir.
First question I have is about the conclusion. It says that we are at the bottom, or we are at the close or at the bottom of the market. You saying that only because the Fed is done raising the rate?
I think that everything's coming home to roost. I think that election year, possible recession, loans coming due. Yes, they stopped raising. They say they still might raise, but I think that my own opinion, I don't know anything, but I think that they're going to keep those rates flat. I think Q1 and Q2 are going to be difficult, and they're going to start to lower a little bit then. They might do a bip or two here, but I don't think they're going to do much.
So what would the bottom look like in multifamily?
What would the bottom look like?
Or what would be telltale sign that we are at the bottom?
You know, you can never time the bottom, you can never time the top.
But you used to say that there used to be a lot of concessions going on a lot of vacancies. And
You're going to see a lot, when you start seeing a lot of concessions, and we're even offering concessions on properties too. So you're seeing that there's more concessions. I think that rents are not going to be as aggressive as they have been in the past. I mean, even with our portfolio, we're seeing great rent growth in a market that should be flat. But I think that rents are going to slow down a little bit. I think that Q1, Q2 is going to start having a lot more defaults. And I think when they start seeing that crash more, then they're going to adjust the interest rates. But it takes time for that to happen,
But
to
you know,
kick in.
let me address
My own opinion.
the question as well. You ask a very complicated question.
Yes.
And what I mean complicated, it's not because we're not sophisticated enough to understand the question. There's no way we could even answer. It's such a fluid economy right now. If you think about it, there's always a lag effect from interest rate hikes to the final impact on the economy. And they have just stopped raising interest rates. And there is supposedly anywhere between an 8 to 9 month lag from one interest rate hike to the final impact. So we don't know what's going to happen for the next 2 quarters, maybe even 3 quarters, if you extrapolate those numbers. But the biggest concern that I would have looking forward would be, what is going to be the final impact on the ability of our tenants to pay the rent, one, and two, the ability that we would have to raise rents on our tenants. Because everything that is fundamental to a portfolio is, what is the net operating income? And if we cannot raise rental rates, then we're dead in the water. And if the final impact of these interest rate hikes is the lower ability of them to pay these rents, then we don't know where that's going to head ultimately in terms of the NOI. And that doesn't even account the layered effects of the inflationary pressures from insurance, taxes, payrolls, on and on and on. And so there's so many layers to this, it really is very hard to answer that question. On a global basis, there will be an impact to be had on NOI from a lot of factors. It's a cumulative effect. And we just have to be very careful of how we manage our operations. As Darwin said, operations. That's everything. Because if you don't have the NOI, we can't service the debt coverage service, and then everything starts falling apart. But we are so fortunate that Darwin was smart enough to keep us in a fixed rate environment. Yes, were we, I won't say stupid, but were we, did we follow suit with everybody who was chasing higher loan dollars through bridge debt? Of course we were. one, because Fannie and Freddie backed off, but at the same time, it just juiced our returns. However, when the proverbial stuff hit the fan, we got out, and we are not exposed at all whatsoever to variable debt. Everything we have is fixed. And some of the graphs that he showed about, and I wanted you to expand on that, we're in value creation. So does everybody here know what value creation means? If you think about it, maybe, maybe not. It means that we were buying value add deals, and so we were pumping CapEx into these properties to raise the quality of the units, so we could raise the rents. And so that's where we find ourselves on a few of these properties. We're still in that upward trajectory, and the rents show we're still getting good between 5, 6, 7, 8% rent bumps. In fact, I was talking to Vicki earlier today. Just on our renewals, we're averaging 5.5% return on most of the properties. I mean, not return, renewal bumps without touching the unit, just 5.5%.
Does the rent increase offsets the higher insurance cost and property tax?
Well, I can say, and I will give you, like Darwin said, my opinion. So we dodged a bullet this year from the hurricane season. We didn't really have a bad hurricane season, so that helped us out. We didn't have a really bad hail season, so that helped out. And then two things on the property taxes. One, Governor Abbott has worked really hard, and this is not a political thing. I'm not abdicating one way or the other, but he has worked really hard to lower property taxes in this state, number one. Number two, by cap rates going up, the values are going down, and so valuations across all the central appraisal districts are coming down. As I just said about what happened.
I think that property taxes will go down, but insurance costs went way up. So they're
but insurance costs maybe come down.
They might come down, and we're getting quotes on a normal basis at $1,200 to $1,500 a door. We've got a program through one insurance carrier that there's a possibility we're going to be at about $800 a unit.
Much better than Florida. It's like 2,000 a door.
Oh, it's crazy.
Well, hurricanes.
They're killing the deals right now.
Yeah.
I want to address what you said also, because you try and time the bottom. You can't. Okay, and not only that, there's different types of recovery. Back in '86 was the major crash in Texas, the biggest crash in Texas. And just to reacquaint you again, gas prices collapsed. There was deregulation in the banking industry that caused a big run up that crashed. And then they changed the tax laws. They used to say, on your K-1, you lost $100,000. You write that off against the taxes you owed. So it didn't matter if you lost money, because it was either lose money there and maybe make it, or give it to the government. Okay, so they changed those three things. And in Dallas, they were building like crazy. I know builders that would go into the bank, a yellow sheet of paper. I'm going to go ahead and build it for this, and I'm going to go ahead and do this. There's my loan application. Okay, you're approved. They were not getting loans to build buildings. They were building buildings to get loans. Okay, completely backwards. Okay, did that on purpose, by the way. And because of that, it was free-flowing money. I mean, seriously, banks, there are so many stories of banks having their own private jet, cocaine and hookers, taking their clients all over the country. I mean, it was party time, okay? It crashed. There's different types of crash. There's the V crash that goes down and comes right back up, okay? There's a bowl where it goes down, just kind of slowly comes back up. So where do you time the bottom? Well, when it hits that, if you're going to go that way. In Dallas in the 80s, in that crash, I think it was 86, it was not a V, it was not a bowl, it was a platter. It went down and stayed down, stayed down, stayed down, stayed down, stayed down, stayed down, to the point where everybody in Texas basically said, I'm never buying in Texas again.
And let me interrupt. And one way to underscore that is that in the 90s, there were very, very few apartment properties built in DFW. It's hard to find properties built in the 90s in DFW. Plenty of them in the 80s, very few in the 90s because of that.
Because of that. Yep.
It's flat.
So even though you're timing the bottom, what you really want to time is when it starts going up, but you can't. So you buy with a long-term vision, you lock in your debt for that long term so that you can ride that through. And again, it's a boring way of investing, but this should be boring. This shouldn't be exciting highs and lows and everything like that. This should be a boring investment.